So in this video, what we're going to go over is how to start building a layout and styling your components. One thing we didn't go over in the last video, kind of intentionally, is this components folder. We did take a look at the logo component, but we didn't in depth explain what this folder is and what it's intended. What it's intended to do is provide some organization so that you can create components here and then import them in your project. So I'm going to create a new component and I'm going to call it header.view. And let me just bootstrap. Really quickly, so I use Vim and I use a tool called Ultisnips. It's really great. I'll put a link in the description. But basically, it just lets me quickly start a view component. And I'm not going to use this right now, and I'm not going to use any of the style yet, but here's what we've got. So I've got a div. I'm going to make this into a header. And let's call this branding. I'm going to call it and I'm not going to worry too much about putting any links here yet. Let's just leave this as is for now. And oh yeah, it doesn't like this space, so let's just get rid of that. Now in my layouts, in my default.view layout, I'm going to create a script tag, export default, and let's pull in our header. So here's how you can pull in a component. Now it's saying the header component has been registered but not used. That's from ESLint that we set up when we first bootstrapped this. And basically it's just complaining that I haven't pulled this in. So actually I'm going to make a change here and call this app header. Now if we take a look at our oh yeah, one second, I have to start Nuxt because I turned it off. So I'm going to npm run dev. Now if we take a look at our output here, we should see Nuxt explained up here. It's very small, but you can see that our change is now being displayed. So we can change the size of this text using Tailwind, make it a little bigger, and you can see there it is. But let's add a shadow up here. You can see that it's pretty easy just to get started with some basic styles with Tailwind. And there we go, there's some padding. Let's see, maybe I can let's do gray 500 just to get it off of the default there. And yeah, so I added this to our layout. Now if I wanted to do a footer, I can do something similar. Now you should see this component. It's not defined. It's because we haven't created it. And you're going to see this kind of ugly error. I mean, it's pretty because it looks nice. It's just ugly because it's an error, right? Now it's saying it's defined but never used up here, but in this error, it's saying error. We can't resolve at components footer.view. And what does this do? Well, that at symbol that we're using refers to the root directory. So when we're doing an import here, it's referring to our projects directory. Anything after the initial slash here refers to either a file or a directory and in our root. So we're looking in the components folder for header here, and then at components footer.view. Now we don't have a footer.view, but we can make one. So let's just really quickly bootstrap another one. Again, multi-snips. Let's just quickly bootstrap, and I'm just going to add and we're still going to see at footers defined but never used, just because we haven't done that. But now you can see on our page, our copyright info is being displayed at the bottom. Let's just make this a little nicer. I'm going to border 0 and then let's just use a border and then border. We'll add a little bit more styling here, just to give it that padding. And we'll get rid of those other borders, just keep border top. And yeah, that way we can see it. Now, about this. I want that to be a little bit lighter. And you can see our layout's kind of coming together. Now, we don't want to keep this, but obviously we're going to have to edit the page in order to change this content, right? But we can see that we've got our layout coming together, and that's because Nuxt is really powerful. It separates our components out into, atoms, molecules, and organs. Kind of. So we'll kind of get into that concept later, but basically we can build these smaller pieces that then make up larger parts of our application, and it's through composition. So there's that concept in programming where things inherit other things. So if you have a class for an animal, that animal could then be extended with another class called bird. And then, if you wanted a more specific bird, it inherits things from bird. But it's hard to do that with UI. And React kind of popularized that concept of composition rather than inheritance. So if you create a component and it does have a lot of helpful methods on it, you may not necessarily need those methods. And it's actually better to separate functionality into a component rather than put some methods into a class and then have another class inherit that to render things. So that's what we're going to do with Nuxt, is that we're going to take advantage of, having these smaller components, but then having these bigger pieces of the app. And we'll get into more about pages in the next video, but this is how you would get started building a layout for your app.